Hello everyone, my name is Gage and I am the editor-in-chief of the Weekly Wiper, and this is episode 14 of Editor's Desk. Editor's Desk is a video series where I make the Weekly Wiper. This is the process of me making my satirical magazine every week. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a long-time viewer, then you're lying, because this is the second video I've ever made. So unless you're just a real psycho, and you want to go back and relive every single paper cut, every single moment, every step of the way. Anyways, this is the process of me making the first copy of the Weekly Wiper every single week. Of course, we go to press on Tuesday. And now, I would like these videos to be shot Monday night when I set the template, but I'm a busy boy. And sometimes I don't get around to it, so it is what it is. But right now, we're starting the process with nulling. If you remember from the first episode, nulling is where you get all of your components squared away and get them in order so that you can start the process of assembling. So right now, I'm cutting out my articles and arranging them on the side of my table to be in order. Some ASMR, of course, for the fans. Oh man, what has changed? What has changed in a week? Nothing has changed in a week. Everything is exactly the same. Everything is exactly the same. I'm going to be reading the articles. If you watch back to the first episode, there was a little bit of costume change, and if you notice, I'm wearing the exact same shirt as the reading of the first week's episode. Crazy. That's what we call continuity, folks. I thought, before I finished the last episode, I thought, if we have all these, I might as well read all the articles. And that's what I did, but I did it late on the last one. So if you're looking for a reading of the Weekly Wiper, an audio version of all the stories, you can check Spotify. To be honest, I haven't actually uploaded any of these in the point where I'm recording right now. So on blind faith alone, I'm going to just say that I finally did it, and these are available on Spotify. So, also realized that I have to send photos after this. Sound off in the chat if you're a workaholic, because I feel like, as of late, I've used the Weekly Wiper to enable my workaholism. And I hear this a lot from, successful people. Because I guess the only people here on podcasts anyways. But they're like, oh, I'm a workaholic. I work too much. But I feel like you gotta be addicted to work if you want something to take off in the beginning. If you really want people to give a shit about what you're doing, maybe not. I feel like art should be obsessive at times. Or else, I don't know, what's the story? Whoever saw a level-headed artist and was like, yeah, I'll listen to his music. I'll watch his movies, I don't know. Maybe there is a couple. Sound off in the chat if you're a level-headed artist. I think creativity is like a curse. Because, who is stupid enough to sit in a room for an hour and a half and make a magazine by themselves that almost no one reads right now? You know what I mean? If I was a touring comic, if I was famous, if I had an audience, then I'm, making this for someone. But right now, this is all hope and delusion, I really believe in this paper, and I believe that people find it funny, that they'll enjoy it. But it's really all just not even a gamble. It's just, well, I'm ranting, folks. That's not how we want to start off the Weekly Wipers second episode of the Editor's Desk. No, we got to be on our game, folks. Right now I'm nulling. I'm nulling the stories. I'm trying to think of the order in which I want these. I haven't exactly set the order. Well, I know where page 5 is going to go. And, of course, I know where the puzzle is going to go. The puzzle this week is a connect the dots. And this will be interesting for me because usually I have the asset for the puzzle already made. But on this one, I have to make the connect. I've never made a connect the dots before. So I'm going to use a piece of paper here. I think I can use this little end scrap. I should have pushed this over a little bit. See, everything is spacing when you're doing anything physical like a print media. It's all about spacing and margins. You got to respect your margins. There we go. Got to make sure these all go together in the proper order. So yeah, I have been... Oh, there we go. That was easy. Yeah, nothing's much changed in the week. Russia is putting forward these phony referendums in different regions in Ukraine to increase the tension in the region and also to give justification for further incursion onto the Ukrainian soil. They're doing this by, they have these these referendums in the area that are like, are you part of Russia, yes or no? This is how they took Crimea, and they basically just flood the place with Russian propaganda, and they the whole point is let's make these people admit on paper that this is Russia, so that if you fight over this soil to defend it, then we have the right to nuke you. That's the TLDR of the situation. And that's terrifying because they have nuclear doctrine. We all have nuclear doctrine. Everyone who has nukes has rules for how to use them. Who set those rules is America, after we are the only ones who's ever used them. There's doctrine of how to use your nukes, when to use your nukes, if to use your nukes. And it seems that Russia is trying to do the long play of we won't use our nukes unless we have to defend the territorial integrity of the motherland. And then they just take that territory and they just grow it and grow it and grow it. And I've been trying to think because it's easy when you watch the news, when you hear about other countries, to just assume, oh, that's the only country that does that. And maybe they are. Maybe Russia is very unique in what they're doing right now. But I try to think about allegories to... Not allegories, that's the wrong word. Gage uses words that are big sometimes to sound like he's smarter, but really... he's just running out of landing strip on his brain and doesn't know where to land the sentence. America's done some fucked up shit. We all know that. I think the reaction is always to be like, well, America did this, America did that. America's done a lot of cool stuff, a lot of fun, awesome stuff. But they've also had their share of fucked up stuff, I feel like a lot of America's cool stuff is in reaction to its fucked up stuff. Civil rights movement, that's pretty fucking cool. But it's in reaction to the fucked up stuff is not treating everyone equally under the law, even though they wrote it on that old-ass piece of paper. What else is some cool stuff America's done? America's done some pretty cool stuff. I don't know. They, yeah, I don't know. I'll think of some cool stuff that America did in the next episode. This episode's for the bad stuff. Or just the Russian stuff. The stuff that Russia's done that we've also done. Yeah, I don't know. Russia is putting forward these referendums so that they can say, oh, no, this is our land, get the fuck off. And I mean, they're already saying that it's kind of why they invaded in the first place. But yeah, I don't know. I try my hardest to read stories of foreign affairs as if they were like my neighbor. You know? Because you've had bad neighbors and you've had good neighbors. But it's tough with the language barrier, the different culture, different history, different everything is different. But I try to find what's the same in those. And I feel like what's the same between the Ukrainians and Americans is their love of big old booties. That's right. Ukrainians are known for enjoying a big old dump truck, a nice fat doinker on someone. And I think that is really the lesson that we should learn, is that the Ukrainians, they're just like us, man. They just want some big booty, lover. That's it. Ukrainians known for this, The Brazilian butt lift is most popular in two regions. The procedure of the Brazilian butt lift is most popular in two regions. That is Miami-Dade, Florida, and the Donbas region of Ukraine. This is a statistical fact. This is in my deep research, using all of the resources at hand from the Weekly Wiper. Now, this is of course false. Of course, the most popular. I opened my window to make sure that I can get some air in this stuffy room, and there's just so many air conditioning units, so I'm gonna have to suffer. I'll have to suffer for my art. Anyways, guys, yeah, the Brazilian butt lift is the most common procedure right after the Ukrainian war. Even though it's presented so many gunshot victims and shelling victims, still the most popular medical procedure in all of Ukraine right now is a little butt tuck. This is just how popular. It's just how much Ukrainians love an absolute diaper on someone. And I think that's really what we should learn from this. From this whole conflict is these people, these Ukrainians fighting for their freedom, they're not too unlike us, I led with Ukraine just because that is the cover article for this week's volume 14 edition of the Weekly Wiper. The headline reads, "From Kiev to Cleveland, Zelensky renames Ukrainian cities for American support." So I'm going to read that at the end of this episode. I don't know. I think the reason I'm so... It was in the news. The Ukrainian conflict was in the news. Russia invaded. Everyone gave a fuck. Left, right, and center. Everyone agreed we should... What? Go to war? Yes, we should go to war. It's so strange to me that people so liberal want so much war. I don't know. Because we saw so many... like the reaction, of course, like our hawkish brains cannot conceive of consolations, negotiations. If there's an aggressor, they must be stomped out immediately. There's no talks of peace. There's no talks of resolution. It's only we need to fucking assassinate Vladimir Putin. How is that your only reaction? You know what I mean? I don't know. Of course, you want to stop this monster, this evil person, this invader, but let's answer violence with more violence. Whatever happened to the non-violent civil rights leaders of the previous era? Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi. Did I pronounce that right? Who cares? I'm white. I don't have to pronounce anything right. I could just be like, well, shucks, guys, it's not my culture. Gandhi. Non-violent. Martin Luther King, nonviolent. Sometimes violence is warranted to defend yourself, but I don't know. When you have the entire military that the United States does, and you're just like, hey, how about we crush another group of people into the ground because they invaded a country that we just started giving a fuck about? Like, maybe not expend resources, maybe not expend your military resources to go take on a nuclear power. Maybe, can we just not have a proxy war for like a year? We just pulled out of Afghanistan. I mean, it's comical how quickly, after pulling out of Afghanistan, we just miraculously found ourselves right at the footsteps of Russia. I mean, look, conspiracies can tend to be annoying, and most conspiracies are fake. But the timing is just too hilarious. We were just fighting in 20 years. For 20 years, we were just fighting in Afghanistan, a country which was also formerly occupied by Russia, who we fought them in Afghanistan, and I'm sure we were currently fighting them in Afghanistan, with like the Soviets backing different. This is all just speculation at this point, but like the Russians were backing people in Afghanistan. We got out of the war in Afghanistan, and then not even like a week later, I feel like it was just like so soon afterwards, Russia invades Ukraine, and of course we need to get involved. Why? Well, because we're America. If we don't get involved, who will? If we don't get involved in someone else's problems, we just must. We are America. We can't stand for this. Yes, $40 billion. $40 billion. Yes, at least $40 billion. Are you kidding me? Do you know how much strategical resources we have in the Ukraine? You know how much of our supply chain is tied up in Ukraine? Actually, surprisingly, a lot. But yeah, that's... I don't want to get too... of course I want to get political, guys. That's literally why I started this paper. It's because I want to just write shit about these assholes who want to start war all the time. This was a rough and dirty episode, folks. This is going to be a little ragamuffin episode. I just think it would be interesting to see what America would be like if we were not involved in a war for just a year. Since World War II, we've pretty much been tied up in some manner of conflict, justifying this military-industrial complex that we've built up since World War II. We haven't stopped making tanks. We haven't stopped running these bases in far-fetched places of the world. 70-something%, I would say more than that, because there's also the black budget that no one's allowed to see. 75% of our fucking... 75% of like our budget in the United States, tax-paying money, goes into the military in different forms. It's like the bill that's become too big to not pay. It's the institution that's just built itself up over decades and decades, and every administration that comes in, I'm sure, has this, we're going to pull out of blank, or we're going to stop fighting in blank. And yet, every single fucking time they get in office, oh, well, we need to stick around. Biden's been making some of the most drastic changes to institutions. No, just kidding. He hasn't. He pulled out of Afghanistan. He pulled us out of Afghanistan, something that Trump promised, Biden delivered on. And then right afterwards, like clockwork, it didn't even, not even a season went by. And guess what? We're back in it again, folks. We don't talk about it, just like we haven't, who was talking about Afghanistan like a year ago, even though we were fully engaged in a conflict with them, we weren't talking about it. But we found ourselves right back again. Same shit. Fighting again. Why? Just, if we just did not find ourselves in conflict all the time, maybe if we came home, let's bring those soldiers home. And I know they're like, well, what are they going to do? Their job is the military. That's their career. That's their life. Well, you know what? How about train them how to build hospitals? They built, hospitals overnight in the middle of Kyrgyzstan. Why can't we teach those people, those combat engineers, to build hospitals for America? To build schools for America? That's not to say other countries don't deserve education or healthcare. But you know what? We always go over there promising to give them democracy, and we just give them about 14 megatons of explosives right down their capital city. And they're like, it's to protect you. We're here to protect you. I just don't get it. Maybe there's something I don't see. But it seems pretty common sense to not keep picking fights with people if you don't want to be punched back in the face. Because America's been riding high off of this success for quite some time, Even though we lost the last, 6 military conflicts we've engaged in. I just don't understand. But you know what? Again, maybe it's something I don't see. I just feel like at this point it's just justification and cope. Let's experiment. If we could have a president that would put a stop to all the wars we're at right now for just a year, don't even have to use up all 4 years of your presidency, what would that look like? If America truly was outside the bounds of conflict for a year, could we do that? Could we stay sober from this bloodlust for just a year? What would that get us? Where would that get us in the world? Imagine the kind of shit we could figure out if we just weren't going to war for a year. Actually, that is an interesting thing to consider. Because I said it. But, what? For a year. Let's see. What would happen after a year? You get a lot more. You got a lot less Dodge Chargers. I'll say that much. All right, I've never done a connect the dots, and right now I'm drawing up the connect the dots for this week's edition. It's called Connect the Devil's Dots. I think I'm going to use the lamp to... Yeah. Okay. So I just need a little tape or something. I don't want this to shift around. I think I could figure this out. Yeah, there we go. It depends on where to start, though. Yeah, this one's going to be a fun one. But yeah, folks, I don't know. I mean, I'm just one guy. What am I going to do? What am I going to solve with this mayhem? Nothing. I'm not going to solve anything. I'm not a military expert. I'm not really anything. So maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but it seems to me that I think we've had enough war. I think we can put the knife down. I think we could stop fighting for maybe just a season, That would be, I don't know about you, but I would love to just not see the body count of American soldiers rise year over year from war, from suicide. Bring them home. Put them to good use. You know what I mean? We should bring all of our military vets back home, stop fighting, and put them all on American Ninja Warrior for a year. For a year. We'll put them on American Ninja Warrior. We will we'll bring them back to the States. We'll, put them on game shows. Let's put Chris Kyle on a Black Rifle Coffee sponsored Family Feud episode. So that, so we can finally just put this to bed. you know? Yeah. Oh, shit, I gotta number these things. Okay. This is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, right now, I'm just drawing the points for the connect the dot. And I'm realizing just how shitty my handwriting really is. And yeah. I gotta kind of experiment with this to see if this is gonna work first. Because I just did this shit freehand. But yeah, it'd be pretty cool if we were just weren't at war for like 2 seconds. But you know what? Let's just keep going. We'll figure it out, I'm sure. Let's just keep going into conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict. And I think, eventually we'll get it. I think the North Korean War Part 2, I think that's when we're really going to seal the deal. I think that's when we're really going to figure it out. But until then, just keep chugging along. Keep justifying the violence. It'll be fine. I think us pissing off all these countries is it's a great way to build diplomacy. And I think we'll figure it out, I think we'll get it. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on war from a 25-year-old. Oh, look at that. It was exactly 30 dots. That's cool. That's really neat. Okay. Now I'm going to do the connect the dots to see if it works. Do you remember any connect the dots? I'm trying to think. When I make the wiper, I'm trying to think of games that we played as children. Because right now, kids are on their iPads all the fucking time. And I'm trying to think of the simpler times when, what games did you play when you were a kid? Tic-tac-toe was a good one. Do you remember those fortune tellers? Those little, they were folded up pieces of paper. I'm actually going to make one. Those folded up pieces of paper that you would kind of, I forgot what exactly I called them. They're like fortune paper. And they would have these little claw points. And inside of them, they would have numbers. And I remember the girls always knew how to make these. And they were just these, pieces of paper that would tell you your future. You would pick a certain number over and over again, and that paper would tell you what house you would have, the first letter of the name of the person you would marry, and how many children you would have. And that was the children games. That was the game that children played. Where you would live, who you would marry, and how many children you would have. Hey, the crossword, or the connect the dots worked. All right, now I just need to transpose this on another piece of paper. That will be good. I think I'll wait until I get to the template, and then I'll just trace the dots again and number them again to save paper, because that's what we're all about, folks. Oh, man. Yeah, that was a game that children used to play. Isn't that so cute to think that children from our generation played a game where they hope to own property, marry, and continue to have generational wealth? Could you imagine what is in those little fortune papers now? First of all, kids don't even use paper, so they wouldn't even have the time and boredom to think up a game like that. But could you imagine, let's imagine for a moment what's in those little sheets of paper. I think it's, let's see. It would be, which apartment are you going to live in? How many bedroom apartment are you going to live in? How many virtual babies are you going to have? And how many psychiatric medications you're prescribed? Gage, that's so bleak. Stop being such a downer. Well, I am the editor in chief of the Weekly Wiper after all. Oh no, I didn't fuck that up. Yeah. There were simple games. Hopscotch. Where you just jumped in a line. Oh, and we loved it. I loved it. Now I'm just going to speak from a personal level. Foursquare. Do you remember Foursquare? This is just going to be turned into such a... I remember when this was a thing. I guess South Park already did that. Remember? But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's different. Maybe we all grew up in different eras. Maybe it's for the best. We have to evolve. Because we also just... No, actually, that'll be good enough. Yeah, I don't know. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was Foursquare. It was Tamagotchis. It was pretty lit. Although if you put yourself back in those times, I'm sure you wouldn't. It's fucking middle school. I don't really long for those times to be a child again, you know. Unlike some people who go to Disney World every year as a 40-year-old person without children. Disney adults. And yeah. It's wild. What other games did I play? There was games that occupied so much of my time when I was a kid. Because that's really all you have to do as a kid is just occupy your time. You don't have a job. You don't have anything. Now these kids are like flipping Bitcoin on, some dark web server or something, making more money than their parents who work at a middle management at a title searching company or something. There's so many jobs that exist that I didn't know even exist. You know what? Mike Rowe is one of my favorite television personalities and people. Mike Rowe, the guy who hosted Dirty Jobs, he had such a beautiful broadcast voice. Absolute dulcet baritone, that guy. But also, the concept of his show was interesting. It was revealing careers, jobs that people work day in and day out that go kind of thankless. And I think that was a beautiful sentiment for his job. Now I want to see the updated version of that. I want to see the at-home worker jobs that no one really pays, like the Amazon. You could do a whole series on just Amazon jobs that we don't know about. And most of them would end the episode with them pissing into a Gatorade bottle. And that... Do you think... As much as people Amazon's evil. Yeah, we get it. But there's got to be some kind of fun that you have in an Amazon warehouse. We've all been there. You really can't sustain that much misery for that long and not do some fucked up things to just blow off steam. Because the way they talk about this, the labor at these Amazon warehouses, I agree, is untenable to a human, and that's why they like a 3-year turnover rate to make sure that their employees don't have enough power or patience to unionize and organize. But if you put that aside, what are the fun and games that they have around around the warehouse at Amazon? You think they're pissing in bottles for their breaks and then putting it in the fridge for... Oh, wait, do they have a fridge? Probably not. And then just putting it out somewhere and be like, oh, Tony, you left your fucking Gatorade. Bro, you fucking got me with the fucking Gatorade piss again. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos is just fucking snorting baby blood. Yeah, I don't know. Games. I always fucking love puzzles, dude. A Sudoku could occupy the fuck out of me for hours. I had a book of Sudoku puzzles when I was a kid. Sound off in the chat, folks. Sound off in the DMs. Sound off in the old Chatterooski. What games did you play as a kid? Those simple games, the things that didn't need to be plugged in. Just a good old-fashioned Amish game. I feel like those paper games were pretty fucked up. There was like a lot of family planning when I was a kid. A lot of like girls in the class that were talking about how many kids they're going to have, what house they're going to live in, you know, that little paper fortune thing. And I feel like that was traditional values that were passed down, but I don't think that exists anymore. I'm not sure. Now it's going to be like, I guess we just went over that. But yeah. I don't know, folks. I don't know what. Yeah. I think it's tough to do all these little paper fortune. I never grew up in a time where I was scared of school shootings. I just missed that wave. Columbine happened in the 90s. Of course, there's always that fear. But when Sandy Hook happened, I was going to school in Connecticut in high school. I think I must have been a junior. A junior in high school, I think, when Sandy Hook happened. So, the terror of that, it was brutal, but it was just when I was leaving school. So I really didn't worry too much about it affecting me. And now it's like once every couple of months. Oh man, I am such a uplifting character. All right, well, on that note, I'm going to go take a shit, and then I'll be back to finish this. What a great shit it was. I almost lost an essential asset. So we're just going to cut that out. Cool. There we go. And we're back on track, folks. So, now we got that out of the way. You know, I have been told, you know, as I have this weird dichotomy in me where I try to be as optimistic and joyful as possible, and then I just get dark. I just get dark, folks. I want to see the worst in the world, the worst in people. I don't know. I think I'm constantly trying to counterbalance that, and the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth. But maybe that's like it's black and white thinking, you know? Things can't be right down the middle. But I mostly get that way when I watch commercials, when I watch advertising. I was watching the Giants versus the Cowboys last night with the sports columnist for the Weekly Wiper, Austin Apostle. And these commercials kept popping up for insurance companies, for credit cards. And this one ad popped up for, I think it was Visa. And the whole premise of the commercial was there's this high school girl who did like acrylic nails or something, and or something. That's what she was doing, and her friends were like using their Apple Watches to pay her for the service, and it was like in a library in a school, and then the librarian comes over to go hush them, as a librarian does, and then the librarian gets her nails done. And that's the thrust of the commercial. This young entrepreneurial girl boss getting paid to do nails in a library, and she's the talk of the town. She's so cool. Oh, I made that image way too big. Fuck. Well, Zelensky, I'm going to have to cut some of your head off. Sorry. You know, it sounds like I'm threatening a lot of violence on this. I'm not. It's just literally there's a picture of Zelensky, and I'm going to have to trim some of the image off, and that image is of his head. I don't want you to think anything. I don't want you to think, period. But yeah, so the commercial was this girl who was so excited to use Visa products. And everyone was like, oh my God, yes, I have my Visa on my Apple Watch. Yes, I have my tap to pay. And it's just, that's what advertising is. I assume they're targeting young people, I guess. Making them the subject of this. I don't know. Does it not irk people where like credit card companies are marketing to children? Remember when there was like a time when we were like separated children from advertisement? We're like, no, we shouldn't. There was like a morality around it of not marketing debt to children. But hey, maybe I'm a traditionalist. Because I just keep seeing these commercials like Cash App. There's this like screenshot from Cash App that I guess I took the screenshot, but it was like advertising like Cash App for teens or something like that. It was like, I'd have to look it up exactly, but they're basically trying to market bank products younger and younger and younger. And I don't know if that's because they're running out of people to market to, or whoever's letting them get away with this, but like, I think as adults, we should understand that, like, yeah, these banks aren't exactly the most, like, moral and good faith characters. Maybe we should learn our lessons from the housing market crash, or the savings and bonds crash, or the flash crash, or, maybe don't trust them with so much power over our economy, let alone the power of our economy. I mean, I guess that's kind of where it's gotten to. But my point is like the marketing. I'm as much a First Amendment guy as anyone else. But advertisement, I don't know. Because I watch some of these commercials and I'm like, who the fuck are these commercials for? I see an iPhone commercial where these people are like, and I wrote about this in the last, I think, volume 12 was the iPhone article. The new iPhone 14 finally fills that hole in your heart. And the article was about how this iPhone 14, everyone's making I feel like there's always a big fuss around iPhones every single week. It's the exact same product. They have not, if you look at the iPhone 14 and you look at the iPhone 3, there's no material difference between the two products. They do the same thing better. Except now the iPhone 14 can tell the police that you got into a car accident. The iPhone 14 has a new feature. This is because they always got to have some feature that makes the iPhone 13 a piece of shit, even though last year they were just talking about how great it was. They talked about the iPhone 13 being the best thing ever, and yet the iPhone 14 next year is just the best thing ever. How many do you need? Because the iPhone 14, its only standout feature, the one thing that everyone keeps talking about, is SOS. The SOS feature on the iPhone 14. Can you believe it? iPhone finally figured out how to call the cops on you. Yes, against your will, even if you don't want them to call the cops on you, the iPhone 14 will call the police on you. We don't live in a surveillance state. The iPhone 14 is going to call the police for you, on you. They're going to call the cops on you. You just got in an accident. As much as iPhone has been in the news about defending people's privacy, this seems like probably a huge violation of privacy. Let me call emergency responders for you when you get in an accident. Now, why would you get in an accident with your iPhone? Why would you? How does it know? And also, cool, it knows. Technology has its faults. Also, look, hit and runs are probably the most American thing I can think of. I just listened to a piece from Breaking Points about, I guess it wasn't from them, but they platformed it. They brought attention to it. I wish I could remember the name of the guy who did this. They talked about how America is a golden death trap. That we are one of the most prosperous nations in the world, and we die at a rate that far exceeds where our median income and like the amount of money, how prosperous as a country we are, we die way faster than anyone else that's just as prosperous. And that's a pretty baffling statement, that we're so prosperous. But if you're an American, you get it. Because the whole thing about the article was that we die disproportionately from gun violence and car accidents. Good. Dying from car accidents and dying from gun violence is about the most American thing I can think of. Both technologies of freedom that are marketed as embracing your individualism, your life, your freedom. Guns and cars are two very, I believe, American symbols of freedom. In Germany and Italy, cars are pieces of engineering. They themselves are the star of... They're the star. Oh my God, you have a car. That's beautiful. That's awesome. Look at this well-crafted, engineered piece of technology. Think of like a Mercedes or a BMW. Those are, well-designed, engineered, sleek pieces of technology. And in America, they're the reason we just can't stay alive long enough. And if you do somehow manage to survive all that car crashing and, fender benders and all that shit, well, you just gotta watch out for a 12 gauge, Gun violence and car accidents. And then here comes iPhone saying, we'll call the police for you. Don't do it. You're taking away what is so American about us. Car accidents. Look at the, local news. It's shootings and car crashes. Shootings and car crashes. That's who we are. As Americans, we are selfishly independent. We are independent for the sake of independence. Not for some greater idea of living in a sovereign nation that makes it so that others want to gravitate towards that liberty and make a better life for themselves. No. We want the freedom to crash our cars into each other like a fucking carnival game. We want the freedom to own a weapon, not to defend ourselves and our property and our life. No. It's to leave it out so that our child can, play with it like a monster truck toy, because it doesn't know what a gun is, and then they die. And that's America. That's who we are as a nation, folks. And I think that's beautiful, because you don't do that on purpose, America isn't a country built on purpose. It's built on impulse. Those guys in Boston in the 1700s, they didn't think it would ever turn into this. They didn't know we had gerrymandering and rigged elections and on both sides, and corporate capture of government institutions and greed and misappropriating welfare funds to build a volleyball court for your daughter. It's not the American dream that they dreamt of, but it's the American dream that we have. And what else? If we stopped with the gun violence and the car crashes, who would we be? Belgium? Fuck that. There's already one Jean-Claude Van Damme. We don't need another. What we need is just more violence. That's what's going to make our country be exceptional to all others. Is just not caring about our citizens. Letting them die from car. It's going to happen, folks. It's America. It's just who we are. And that is why I lost my train of thought. Damn. I'm still on the cover. I'm starting to assemble the cover right now. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, that's my point. That's my point. Is America. Why were we talking about America? Why won't we talk about America? I'll find any reason to talk about America. It demands being talked about. It's such a crazy country to live in. America is such an experiment. Also, America is like exports its culture so far out into the world. Americans, I feel like, don't appreciate just how American other places are. When I studied abroad in Germany, if I was blind, I wouldn't know necessarily that I was in Germany until maybe I got to like where my host family was. The music, all the music that was playing was American music. There's no other culture. Right? Maybe if you go to Korea, they got K-pop and shit, but pretty much everywhere, you can find some American culture. And that's what we'd make. We make car accidents. Oh, the iPhone, that's what we were talking about. The iPhone will call the cops on you. And I think that's the most un-American thing ever, because what is more American than a hit and run? A good old-fashioned hit and run. I don't even think there's a word for hit and run in any language. You can look it up. I don't think it exists. I think hit and run is an exclusively American concept where you completely disregard the life of another human being for the selfish reason of not wanting to be tied up in our absolutely draconian criminal justice system or have to pay any medical bills from our entirely greed-filled medical system. Hit and runs are about as American as apple pie. And iPhone is trying to take that away. They're trying to take that away by calling the cops on you whenever a car accident happens. Let me just tell you right now, I predict there's going to be a lot of drunks who buy Androids next year. Yeah. And eventually, this might be a standard. Like seatbelts. Well, why doesn't your phone call the cops for you? Why doesn't your phone involve police at any given point? Do you not want others to be safe? Do you not want to be safe? Do you want people to die because your iPhone didn't call the cops for you? I need to know where you are. I need to know how fast you're going all the time. See, what I'm saying is America is the land of opportunity. You can have every opportunity to die in a flaming car crash or in a hail of gunfire. These are opportunities that America provides. It's the most American thing about us. It really sets us apart, you know? And iPhone is just trying to take that away. And for what? So that you can be safe? No, thank you. No, thank you very much. I will use my Palm Pilot and die in a car accident. Thank you very much. Because that is my right. My right as an American to die in a flaming pile of metal scraps. That's the American dream. But yeah, for real, iPhone can suck it. Yeah, I watch these commercials and I really don't know what people are thinking when they watch it. Like, are they buying into the bullshit? Because I saw this iPhone commercial, not the car crash one, but there was a commercial for iPhone 14, and it was this like horde of people running to the I think it was like a Verizon store or something, running to the store to get the new iPhone. Oh my god, it's here, it's fucking here, oh my god. Families, elderly, young people, like, why I know why, because it's the iPhone. Everyone loves the iPhone. I get it. Tim Cook is continuing the tradition. Imagine if Steve Jobs was still alive, though. As much of a nut as that guy was, he made some real cool shit. Like, he did make the iPhone, and let's not get it twisted. The iPhone was a dope fucking invention when it came out. The iPhone 3. Do you remember? Everyone's mind, holy fucking shit. What? You can listen to music and make phone calls and other things and text and drive and mostly text. Yeah, I mean, how many more people are going to be texting and driving with the iPhone 14, huh? I mean, that's basically where we've gotten to, is we've tried to stop people from texting and driving, and they're just like, look, nothing we do is going to help. How about we, I don't know, make the phone call the cops on you? If you're just too stupid to stop texting and driving, when the phone ejects from your hand, we'll use the accelerometer and the gyroscope to just figure out that you were too stupid to look at the road and you ran into a Hyundai Sienna of a family of 7, and we'll call the cops on you, and then that's our legislation. But yeah, the original iPhone 3, I think, or the iPhone 1, I don't know. I wasn't an iPhone guy, never bought an iPhone, but I can appreciate the level of holy shit when that came out. But since Steve Jobs has died, I don't think Apple's really done nothing of note. Like, there isn't a product, maybe Apple TV, but like everyone's doing that. Everyone's getting into the entertainment space. Jeff Bezos is, and with Amazon Prime. I'm just looking at the cover right now. Yeah, I don't know. The iPhone really hasn't come up with much besides calling the cops on you, but I'm sure it'll work out great. All right, now we're on the page 2 puzzle. Yeah, but I do generally speak negatively about a lot of things in life. And is that who I am? Do I really believe everything's in it? I feel like I go back and forth from very optimistic to very pessimistic. I'm going to keep, I don't know. Because it's like you want to be optimistic. I'll be optimistic, but it's like you just see what's happening in the world. And it sucks. And you can be a Pinker follower and be like, oh, we have less gun violence, we have less crime, we have less this, that, and the other. But I mean, let's get a vibe check on America, huh? Let's get a vibe check. Are we really off better than we were? Are we really feeling it? If someone tells you all these statistics about how great you should feel, do you really feel that vibe? Do you want to catch that vibe, fam? Because I don't. Maybe I just like to be miserable. Just kidding, guys. We're uplifting. I said I would be positive. And I am COVID positive, folks. I'm HIV positive. Yeah, this is gonna be tough. Yeah, I fucking love puzzles, man. A little brain juice, a little effort. I'm using my lamp to make a connect the dots game here. To trace this, I really can't move this at all. It's gonna be very tedious. But that's pretty much the Wiper, folks. It's just a tedious magazine made by a tedious guy doing a lot of tedious shit. That's me, the editor in Queef. Yeah. No, it's fun. What else is there to talk about? The iPhone 14, Russia, What else is in the news? Midterms are coming up. Midterm elections coming up, and that means we're gearing up for the presidential season. The next 2 years is going to be filled with campaign promises, backstabbings, front stabbings, stabbings, a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, the election's coming up, midterm elections. I just heard a political ad on the radio that was against Beto O'Rourke. That was kind of basically saying that he supported violence against police by supporting Black Lives Matter. I don't really know how that connects, or even the fact that I believe that Beto O'Rourke supports Black Lives Matter. But besides that, hey, I did it, folks. Okay, whew, my arm is tired. Okay, but yeah, it was a political ad that was against Beto. It wasn't even for anyone, which just goes to show like where our electorate is at. People used to go to elections for someone. They used to be like, well, I'm going to vote for Nixon. I'm going to vote for Kennedy. I'm going to vote for Obama. More and more of elections have turned into, I'm going to vote against this person by voting this guy's name in. And that is not a place you want to be at. An unenthusiastic electorate that is just voting against the worst candidate. Because then you don't even have to be the best candidate. You just have to not be the worst candidate. And that does seem like a semantic, asshole thing to say. But it does mean something. Because it means you don't have to really stand for anything. You just have to stand against someone. And that is very easy to do. It's very easy to just say, well, I hate this guy. Because that's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm voting out of hate. I hate this guy. I don't want them to be in office. Well, fucking get in line, dude. There's plenty of people to hate. But in my opinion, and I give a lot of them, opinions that is, I feel like if you're going out to vote, it should be with enthusiasm for an individual. That you are excited to have a leader that you believe in. A leader that you feel will do what's right for you, what's right for your family, for your community, your country, instead of, I don't like him, so I'm going to vote for his enemy. I don't really see that as a productive way to run a democracy, because then you're just going to have this, it's constant, it's just ensuring conflict. It's the whole deplorables thing, it's the whole lying, cheating Hillary thing. What do you stand for? What is your substance? Nothing. That's why you got to run on someone else being an asshole, bigger asshole than you. And hey, if that's how you want to run the country, off of hate and division, then sure, why not? Because I sure don't. I write articles about different politicians, but I'm trying to capture the absurdity of this political theater that's going on. Also, I'm not a legitimate news organization. There are these historied news organizations that, maybe I am a legitimate news. The waxing wiper will certainly be I'm kind of just ranting and rambling here, folks, but I mean, that's what you get with the editor's desk. I will be releasing a monthly magazine called The Waxing Wiper. It will be released under a waxing gibbous. Every waxing gibbous. Just as this one was released every week. A waxing gibbous, for those who don't know, is a moon phase that is generally defined as the moon phase between the first quarter and a full moon. So it goes new moon, half moon, first quarter, full moon, second quarter. I don't know. A waxing gibbous means that you are gaining, you're going into a full moon. Now, why did I pick a waxing gibbous as the moon phase on which I want to release my new monthly magazine? Because it had a W in it. There's also a waning gibbous, which is when you are on the other side of a full moon, going back towards a crescent, going back towards a half moon, going back towards the new moon. But waning sucks. Waning wiper it's in decline. Waxing wiper. I think the waxing wiper has better, it sounds better, waxing, like waxing philosophical, like when you ponder something, but also waxing is a funny double entendre for ripping hair off your pussy. And also, it sounds cool. And I like using X whenever I can. That is, I like using ecstasy whenever I can. Just kidding, folks. I don't do drugs at all. Ever in my life. Not even once. Except meth, back in the 80s. But yeah, the waxing wiper is actually on a serious note. Guys, let's be serious for a second. Let's be very serious. The waxing wiper is something I'm very proud of. The first, I'm proud of everything. I'm a prideful person. I'm a sinner. I'm a winner. I'm a midnight toker. The waxing wiper will be a serious, as serious as I can be, is a serious publication. The first edition is going to be part 1 of a 2-part series called Keep Austin Wealthy. And the first article, the first piece, I suppose I can call it like an essay or something, a long piece, is going to be on Lucy in Disguise with Diamonds, which is shutting down after 38 years of business. So make sure to check out the website, theweeklywiper.com, which is when I will debut not only the website, but the Waxing Wiper as a magazine as well. So look forward to that, and more on that later. But yeah, elections. It is midterms. And there really has not been a candidate I've been enthusiastic to vote for. Someone I want to go out to the polls to vote for them. But like everyone else, I don't want that person to be in office, so I'm going to vote for his opponent. And it's not fun living in a country like that, because you're just kind of always fighting and be like, well, your guy's is the worst. That's why I voted for this guy. And he's like, well, your guy is the worst. But well, I know he's not the best, but, he's not your guy. So it's just like we're all admitting, like, Trump was a fuck you vote against the institution of elections, against at the time, the Democratic Convention, a Democratic institution. Everyone, now it's just back and forth. I hate him, so I'm voting for him. Where do you get with that? Well, because then you also have to be pretty against the guy that you're running against, which makes you even more hateable to their side. Does that make sense? Like, we hate, let's talk about the Trump side of things. If we were doing Trump-Biden, because let's be real, Trump's probably going to run 2024. You don't have to be a fucking genie to figure that one out. Trump's probably going to run in 2024 because he's a raging narcissist, and I don't think he could handle not running. I think his heart would stop if he didn't run for president. But let's say he runs. Then what's like the campaign strategy inside the Trump offices and inside Trump campaign headquarters? It's, we hate Biden. Biden caused inflation, even though there was underlying factors and terrible supply chain fuckery that happened on a bipartisan level. It's Biden's fault. We got to be mad at Biden. Biden's this. Biden's terrible. Biden's this. So you don't want to be associated with anything having to do with Biden. So that means you have to make yourself an opposition in full form. Anything Biden stands for, you have to be against. Anything Biden has done, you have to say it's bad. Anything that you've done, you have to say it's because Biden couldn't do it or wouldn't do it or shouldn't do it, should have done it but didn't do it. And so you have to make yourself a bizarro version of the next candidate, even if there's stuff you agree on, which there probably is plenty. You cannot admit the sameness. You cannot admit that they're fighting for the same cause. No. You have to take up an entirely oppositional strategy. Nothing Biden says is right. everything I say is right. So that makes Biden's people hate you. Because at every turn, Biden's stupid, Biden's bad, fuck Biden. I don't want to be associated with him. I don't even want to be any policies to overlap. So then you're just the bizarre version of that. So all of his followers, I guess you can call them at this point, are completely against you. So now that everyone hates you on that side, Biden's going to run against you and say, I am not Trump. There's nothing Trump about me. If there's even a square inch of Trump on my body, remove it. I am not him. I am the opposite. I am anti-Trump. So now Trump followers are going to hate you. And that just fuels this. Then your side is entirely bolstered by, I'm not that guy. And it's going to be interesting where that gets us. Because there was a time where politicians, at least, even if they were bipartisan, even if they're partisan, agreed on some things. Like, hey, we shouldn't send American soldiers to die for a useless cause. You know, they didn't even send American soldiers into the fucking Holocaust to liberate those people. To liberate people from concentration. America was hesitant to go into World War II. And now if like a kitten invades a fucking hen house in Kyrgyzstan, we're like, well, this cannot be stood for. That cat was a Russian aggravator. It's not our business. We're already back on the war politics. Guys, this has really gone off the rails, but I'm on page 3 and I'm really just cooking here. Cooking my brain. Yeah, this is just going to be a political rant. You know what? I'm not going to try to cover up the rage that's inside of me. This angst. But instead, I will try to therapize it through creative. This is a very therapeutic process for me. Making the wiper. And maybe I just have to exercise these bad thoughts and this negativity out of me. Maybe put it out on the internet for people to see and read comments about how stupid I am and I don't know how politics works. And then I will be like, oh, yeah, you're right. I should stop talking about this. It can get boring. And people do generally not like when... I mean, who wants to say... No one was like, come on, man, that's just such a bummer. Because we all generally know we're kind of fucked. Everyone kind of has that latent suspicion. I think that's the most fucked part. It's like we've kind of accepted a nihilism that's like, yeah, I mean, I know we're all fucked, but like, have you seen the new iPhone 14? The camera is the best camera I have seen ever. How the fuck do you know the difference between the camera? You're like, oh, that camera looks fucking good. What are you going to take a picture of? Your bunker? Dude, my selfies in the bunker are going to look so fucking cute. Dude, hot girl summer is right around the corner, followed by nuclear winter. Yeah. I don't know. Doom and gloom. Nobody wants to be upset. Nobody wants to be sad. Except they do. They do want to be sad. They want to be upset, especially during election season. They want to be sad about what's happening to the world. No, just me? Cool. All right. Well, yeah, that's just me, really. I don't know what I really get out of it, though. Because it is a bummer. I'm a bummer around myself sometimes. What do you get out of it? Well, I have to fill the air for an hour and a half. So I'm just going to keep ranting and raving. Mostly raving. Ranting and raving. As much as people say ranting and raving, I don't really think person at a rave would wax political for an hour about war and elections and the crumbling infrastructure of our government. I think they'd be like, dude, this fucking ecstasy is so good. Actually, never been to a rave. I don't really know rave culture. I haven't done a lot of things, but I have done a lot of things. I haven't really done a lot of cool shit. Wasn't exactly... Oh, God damn it. Yeah. Folks, we've officially just gone off the rails with this one. Episode 14, it's already coming to a crashing halt. Page 3 in the bag, folks. Actually, no, it's not. I gotta get a Sharpie. All right, I've gotten a Sharpie. And we're ready to finish up page 3. This one we're really cooking along here. I think I've found a way to... Yeah. This page 3 article is about the Ohio State Fair having healthier food now. So, that's what that's about. Yeah. Yeah, I really don't know how to... I don't know. It's like a compulsion to just talk about politics and how fucked the world is. Like, I feel like there's a clock in my brain that if it's gone too long, I'm like, oh, wait. I haven't talked about the apocalypse yet. Hold on. Let me explain to you why we're fucked, why the economy is in the shit, why everyone is nihilistic. It's like I have to constantly remind myself, you're living in hell. But really, it's fine. If I just stop complaining. I live in this nice 2-bedroom apartment in South Austin. I get to make a newspaper every week. You know, there's some people that are in like salt mines, you know. So, really be grateful for what you got. Because you don't know what you got till it's gone. Hey, Paradise. You know, that song, I don't know what, I think it's called Paradise or Put Up a Parking Lot. You know, where like they take Paradise and put up a parking lot. My brother, when I was a kid, I used to sing along to that song. I think I was singing along to that song one time, and my brother was like, you can't sing that song, there's a swear in there. And he just convinced me there was a swear somewhere in the song. And so I stopped singing it because I didn't even know where the swear was. I knew what swears were at the time because my dad smoked cigarettes, but yeah, by the way, if your dad smokes cigarettes, he definitely always swears. That's just a fact. No one who smokes cigarettes keeps it clean around the kids. But yeah, my brother convinced me that there was a swear in that song. They take, hey, Paradise, put up a parking lot. Yeah, it's a great song. Didn't know what the swear was. And then one time we were on a road trip and we had this little like magnetic whiteboard with different letters, and he would spell out different words, and he spelled out pussy on a whiteboard. And I was like old enough where I could read things phonetically. So I've definitely read pussy, and I was like, what's a pussy? Like out loud in the car. And my brother said, well, shut the fuck. And he punched me in the shoulder. It was fucking hilarious because I nearly tattled on him by saying pussy out loud. But yeah, it was good. Those were fun times. That was good times. Take a trip to Florida every February in the car, in the Suburban. And I remember the Suburban had my stepdad had a Suburban with a VHS tube television in the back. Yeah, no, I lived a pretty good life. We're good. We're fine. I'm fine. I remember I'd always watch Shrek on the VHS. Shrek, or like you'd get like antenna, like TV radios. This was like I guess not pre-satellite, but like it would get like the basic channels that would come in, kind of like those radio TVs you'd see at like parking garages in New York. That like the parking attendants would have in the offices, those little like tube top with the radio antenna. Radio is such a fascinating technology. The first radio to be used Actually, I don't know if that's true. But the first like radio technology was just a simple ping that would be sent to ships out on the water to remind them what time it was. Kind of like a bell tower, but just in beeps on a radio. And that would help them with navigation and like knowing just how long they've been out there. And I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's because the clocks at the time would get fucked up by the rhythm of the ocean. So I think the radio was a way to tell time from the shore that was not affected by the waves, because having a clock on a boat is a tough thing when your clock is based off of gravity, gears turning, off of a weight, a pendulum. You know, you can't have a pendulum on a boat. You're going to fuck up the entire process of time. So they would send pings to these boats via radio, and that's how they kept time. So there's a little feather in your cap for a party. But radio I love so much. Like when you flip on the radio, one, because it's such a older technology. The people that listen to the radio, the demographic of people listening to the radio it's definitely not the people that are just on their iPads all the time or on their phones all the time. The radio is and they know that. The people who still advertise on the radio, again, where I heard that Beto O'Rourke, Beto or the anti-Beto campaign, the anti-Beto fucking political ad, I guess, the governor. I heard it on the radio, and it's interesting to listen to the radio, listen to the cadence of the radio. There's so many commercials because they have to fund it, but it's also like a public utility. Anyone with a radio device can access the radio. There's no lock on it. Everyone's phone. I think Android phones have this thing. I don't know, not all of them, but if you have headphones, some of them you don't need headphones, but for mine you needed it would use your headphones, like wired headphones, as an antenna to pick up radio signals, so you can listen to AM, FM radio on your phone through just radio signals being sent. I think that's pretty fucking cool. But yeah, radio is the idea of pirate radio, where you would use the public airwaves to broadcast whatever you wanted. I thought that was pretty cool. It's pretty dope technology because everyone can access it. And that is... I wonder if I can start a CB radio channel that people follow. Sound off in the chat if I can start, because that would be the coolest shit ever, is if I could have a CB radio podcast. Even if I had to rent space or license a certain frequency, because CB is used for transportation, and I think you can't clog up the airwaves there. I'm sure there's some regulation through the FCC. And if the FCC won't bother me, I think there's some regulation with the FCC because you can't just take up airspace that is used for emergency or transportation communication. But if there was a possibility that I could have my own private ham radio channel and have a show on there, I think that'd be really fun. Even just learning how to operate one of those radios, because the technology of radio, it's the fuck listens to the radio anymore? But radio technology is so interesting because with a strong enough signal, you can reach crazy reaches of the world because of the way the signal bounces off the stratosphere. Like they say, with an overcast day, a signal could reach from Florida to, Pennsylvania or something. Even with the curvature of the earth, that you can get that signal. It's crazy that a signal can travel that far and still be interpretable. That there is a technology that can decipher that. And that technology is basically ancient compared to the iPhone 14 that can call the police on you whenever you get in a car accident. The iPhone, and you can call someone from Pennsylvania to Florida with an iPhone 14, but it's not as impressive. you know? It's not nearly as impressive when an iPhone calls someone in Pennsylvania. If, they don't have a ham radio. Seems pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. Fuck, I glued this and it was the wrong order. But yeah. I think having a ham radio station would be just up my alley. Just my kind of audience, truckers. But yeah, the audience for radio, when you listen to the radio, it's like, what they always say is like, helps the workday go by faster. Helps the workday. It's always for the working man. It's a very working class technology. Because who else would be listening to the radio if not someone who's like forced to work at a job? When I worked at the paper mill, they had a radio on because it's a passive technology. You put it on in the background. There's music playing through it. There's an antenna. It's very lo-fi, but the people broadcasting on the radio are broadcasting to working individuals because, it's on during the day, daytime radio. That's where you get the conspiracy, the coast-to-coast AM, the AM radio. AM radio is definitely different than FM radio. FM radio is like, I want to listen to Taylor Swift while I do my clerk job. And AM radio is like, I want to listen to Alex Jones tell me about why Taylor Swift is one of the lizard people. Different strokes, different folks. I think that's beautiful. If you would bring those people together. And we can do that with my ham radio channel called On a Different Frequency. The Forbidden Frequency. Yeah, it's ham radio channels. Sound off in the chat if you have a ham radio channel, folks. I want to listen to your CB radio talk. I'm sure it's amazing. I'm sure it's so fun and entertaining. I'm sure it's great. It's probably the greatest. It's probably the greatest channel there is. But yeah, this is the story of a girl. And I gotta shit again, folks. This is why you don't pound a coffee right before you sit down to make a newspaper. Eventually, I'm sure. I always think about the apocalypse. I definitely got a prepper. I'm like a soft prepper for sure. I get it. I get where they're coming from, but I'm not willing to make the commitment, Like I get what they're talking about. I get how the lizard people are going to rule us all one day, but who's got the time to build a bunker and bury soup in your backyard, I don't know. I think for people who are preppers, they relish the idea of everything falling apart because they got nothing else going for them in this life. And they need the world to end for them to feel like they can do something. And they blame the institutions, and they blame these giant behemoths of industry for fucking up the world and the water supply and everything. But with the world they currently have, they're not really doing much with it. You know what they are doing? Opioids. And I don't do opioids, folks, but definitely soft prepper vibes over here. I get the appeal. The apocalypse, yada, yada, yada. You get to be a fucking zombie hero. People were kind of soft preppers when Walking Dead first came out. Remember when zombie culture was a thing? There was like a craze of like zombie survival guides and how to survive. I had the book too, How to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse. Like people were talking about, oh, this is what I would do in the zombie apocalypse. This is what I would do because it was cool because zombies were like the enemy. But it's not going to be the zombie apocalypse. If there is an apocalypse, it's going to be fighting for water rights in Idaho. It's not going to be fighting some fucking brainless creature. It's going to be, defending a spring in Oklahoma. Because, water rights is going to be the next, water rights is the next thing, guys. Jump on board. Probably. I don't know. It kind of tracks. Kind of makes sense. I'm just talking out my ass, probably. But, that's okay. Everything's going to be fine. We'll be fine. Everything's fine. The way the system is going now I'm sure it's fine. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing could possibly happen. Everything's fine. Right now I'm doing the page 5 article, which was written by Jack Stoltman. The article is Gen Z voters nominate themselves on 2022 ballot. And it was a funny article. I can't wait for you guys to read it. I'm currently making up the cover for it. Yeah. So, anyways, who did you vote for this year? Just kidding. I remember I had this conversation with a fellow Weekly Wiper contributor, Trenton Bradley. We were talking in an Whole Foods about the election and just election culture. And we were talking about like a time where elections were kind of boring. You know, there wasn't really, you know what I mean? It was like John Kerry against George Bush. Like, who gave a fuck, you know? Adults gave a fuck. But like now children are like politically engaged and politically activated. And why? You know what I mean? Like there's like children who, like Greta Thunberg, you know, she's like politically activated. And how dare you? How dare you put me on this stage? You know I am an autistic 12-year-old. You know? It's kind of nuts. Because obviously the children aren't the ones doing it. Like, adults are pushing these kids to be politically activated. Because listening to kids is the new trend. So that's cool. Listening to the opinions of children on world matters. That's the new thing. But yeah, it's voting used to be a private matter, like a lot of things. Politics, money, religion always used to be private taboos. We wouldn't talk about them at the table. You don't bring up religion. You don't ask who someone voted for, ever. And now people are being labeled by who they voted for. Oh, he's a Biden supporter. He's a Trump supporter. It's none of your fucking business who I support, because that's not how democracy works. Well, we don't live in a democracy. That's not how a republic works. That's not how voting works. Voting doesn't work by you get to judge me for who I voted for. You don't get to judge. You don't get to know who I voted for, because there's a curtain. There is a process. There is secrecy. There is privacy in that booth. You're supposed to be able to go in there, vote for whoever you believe is going to run the country or your community the best, leave, and move on with your day. But now it's like, I don't know, man, exit polls and fucking people hashtagging it. Like, the only thing that's not private about voting, or should have been not private about voting, is that little sticker that I voted today. It's like, hey, just a reminder, go out there and support your democracy. But now it's become such a thing. Like, who you voted for has become an identity marker. And that's just kind of twisted, because like, it's supposed to be a private process. It's none of my business who you voted for, and it's none of your business who I voted for. You know whose business it is the people who run elections. You know, the ballot counters, and even their business is just counting you know, dots and dashes. It's not knowing that Gage voted for, you know, Jill Stein. You know, it's not their business who I voted for, Bernie Sanders. It's not their business. But now it's become that. And, I mean, it really hasn't become that. We say, like, I feel like I don't want to fall into these trappings of, like, kids these days, and this is the way it is. It's like, that's just me saying how I see things, but there's some truth to it, I guess. But, you know, everything I'm talking about is a choice. Like, you can choose to share who you voted for. You can choose to put weight on who someone voted for. We're all making those choices little by little. You know, when people talk about, oh, cancel culture is like this, it's like, things are what you make of it, okay? You can only control what you do. You can only control what you say and your actions, so don't worry about what other people voted for, you know? What I care about is who you voted for on American Idol, you know? Are you a Reuben Stutter? Or are you a, the fuck was that guy's name? Hicks something? Fuck it, whatever, I forgot. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, does it really matter, folks? We're just going to be in a different proxy war. Whether you voted for Trump or Biden or Harambe, it really doesn't matter. Because we live in a republic, not a democracy. Your vote doesn't count. Your vote doesn't matter. In a republic, what your vote is depends, or if your vote counts or not, depends on what state you live in. If you're in Texas, it doesn't matter that you're a liberal. It's going to be red no matter what. Mississippi, going to be red no matter what. There's a few states in America that we call swing states that determine elections. That's why, Hillary Clinton flew right over all those states that she didn't give a fuck about, and Trump went in and spun his golden thread of bullshit and won them over. So, yeah, there's a few states that your vote matters, and if you live in those states, congratulations, you're a swinger. You're a swinging dude. You're a big swinging voter. But if you don't be mad. It's okay. You can still vote for your local elections. You can still vote for, the next celebrity. I don't know. What do people vote for these days that's not elections? I said American Idol, but I haven't seen American Idol in like more than a decade. I haven't seen American Idol since the incident. Anyways, guys, look, we're coming up on the last page here, so let's just end on something positive. All right? I will make that commitment to you. Let's talk about something positive. Now, what is something that's positive that's happening in the world right now? Yeah. Hey, how about them Cowboys, huh? Just kidding. That's, if you're in this home, it's not positive. Well, the Memphis 7 were reinstated at Starbucks. The Memphis 7 were 7 workers at a Starbucks that unionized or tried to organize a union there in Memphis, Tennessee. And they were consequentially fired for their organization efforts. And I'm sure that Starbucks used some kind of excuse of why it wasn't anything. It just coincidentally, these 7 people that organized, it had nothing to do with their organization efforts and how they, as a corporation, stand against union efforts, that it was completely unrelated. But the NLRB, the National Labor Review Board, they disagreed, and they had those workers reinstated, along with a legal notice saying that Starbucks' practices of anti-union intimidation were illegal. So that is good. That is good news. This wave of union efforts across America, including the railroad strike, although it's, maybe, especially with the railroad striking, maybe that's not so great because the deal is still kind of in arbitration. It's behind closed doors. The deal has been kind of locked away. Even the workers themselves, once Biden called in to break up the union that would have brought our economy to a screeching halt, which is what they kept pushing. Like, these people are willing to risk the economy, but like, you're willing to risk their lives so that they don't risk your economy. That's where our priorities are at. But positive. I said we would end positively. These railroad workers made themselves be heard. They made people pay attention to the plight that they have to go through working these yards, and the undue and unreasonable stress that this job puts on those individuals, that they can't see their families, that they can't pay for their, they can't, they get leave for medical and all that. They barely have any weekends. Those people made themselves be heard and made people pay attention. And because of that, a deal was met. Whatever the deal is, whatever that shakes out to be, well, that's to be determined, and then that's another fight. But the first shot in the battle, it's definitely not the first. Other efforts have been made, but these individuals have their conflict at least somewhat more in the American consciousness. There's more consciousness towards their struggle, and I think this is a good thing. Any attention paid to efforts of organization and labor rights, I believe, is not only good but necessary, because more and more of us here in America are working labor jobs. When I say labor jobs, I mean jobs where we are the product or the mode of, how do I put this? Labor. You know what labor is. Fucking, you're working. You have to do something, And I guess you could say office work is also labor, but come on. Labor jobs. Jobs that demand something physically of you. A lot of shit still needs labor. Robots have not replaced us all. There is still a big contingency of America that needs to move shit around physically, that needs to put in work, and through a lot of different avenues, through a lot of different pieces of media and narratives that we've spun, we look down on labor a lot. We see people who labor as lower class, as less educated. And I say this as just a setup. We obviously, not everyone does, but in the back of your mind, it's really, they're just fucking whatever. But they really drive this entire country to where it is. Pun intended. These railroad workers literally deliver 30% of our economy on their tracks. We need them. We need them to buy all the iPhones you want. So you got to take care of these people, because the job is already demanding and they are making themselves be heard. Starbucks, there's a wave of unionization at Starbucks, Walmart, now Home Depot. These are good things. These are laborers who are standing up and making their voice be heard. Because however you feel about unions, there are different unions. Every union's different. There's police unions. Not everyone's a fan of those. There's teachers unions. Some people are a fan of those. There are labor unions for film sets. There are labor unions for electricians. There are labor unions for plumbers. There's all these different unions, and whatever narrative you've been told about unions, about unionization, put that aside just for now and consider how I look at unions. See if this matches up with your ideology. See if it matches up with your philosophy. I see unions at its very core as a way for an individual worker, an individual laborer, to have their voice be heard by the greater company that they make money for. Labor is an essential element of so many industries. And often, the people doing that labor can be swept under the rug very easily. Their voices can be lost in the noise of profit, bottom lines, stock buybacks, share value, all of that. It can very easily get lost, and has for a long time, and still continues to. In my view, a union is a way that those laborers, those individuals that do the hard work, that makes those corporations their money. It is a way for their voice to be heard, for them not to go unnoticed, to be, in the worst case, a thorn in their side of the corporation so that they demand being paid attention to. And in the best case, a cooperative collective of individuals who want to work, but wanted to work with decency and dignity. And that's why I, for the most part, support unionization. And I know people will come up with a myriad of reasons of, they're just lazy, it's entrenched with corruption, it's this, it's that. Yes, but that is true with almost every institution, especially in the United States. I will not let that. I mean, we love to point to the corruption of institutions when it has to do with the core of it supporting laborers, but then the whole reason to organize is to buck the trend of corporate greed. You see what I'm saying? If it's such a concern of entrenched corruption, then maybe let's fix that problem so that people don't feel like they need to unionize. Maybe just have an ethical business where you treat individuals with respect and dignity because they're the ones cashing checks for you. Said I would end positive. This is as positive I'm going to get on this podcast. I'm maybe a little moody today, but you know what? Solidarity for everyone. Solidarity forever. Because I am a huge proponent of people. I love people, human beings, and their capacity for everything. Everything that we do, everything that we see. This camera was built by a human. This microphone was built by a human being. Designed by a human being. I couldn't make this weekly wiper without all the individuals that put in the work to make the paper, the scissors, the glue sticks, this pen. Everything is made by us. Manufacturing, production, creation. It's a very human thing, and I love humans. I love people. Institutions can go eat dust, but the people that make up these collectives, those are the people that's the collective that I cherish. Humanity. See, look, positive Gage comes out. This is how we counterbalance the negativity, folks. This is how we counterbalance the demons. Now, we're almost done with the weekly wiper. I am now on the advertisement part of the paper. Again, only Alden Schaub has taken out advertisement with this weekly wiper paper. But we don't stop, folks, because advertising is still a very essential revenue stream for the weekly wiper. For $69, your advertisement could live on half of page 1 and one tile of the Instagram, and then once the paper comes out, or once the website is released, we'll figure out how maybe like a banner ad on the homepage that will run every week, because there's just one advertiser for every issue of the weekly wiper as it currently stands. This is an 8-sheet, 6-page publication. And with these individual publications, I think one advertiser would suit the wiper at its current state. So if you want to be the sole advertiser for whatever volume of the Weekly Wiper, please email theweeklywipernews@gmail.com for advertising or any business inquiries. Because this money goes right back into the wiper. Any money that anyone sends, it goes into paying the writers, buying product for the paper itself. I'm certainly not turning a profit on this, especially now. But I hope to, one day. I want to be able to quit my job. I want to be able to dedicate my life, my time to making this into an awesome product. Right now, this is what I can afford. This template, these glue sticks, every week, putting in the work, ranting and being depressed for an hour and a half. That's what I can afford. But one day I hope to have 2 cameras and I can point down to show you what I'm doing in like real time on this desk, and have a legit magazine one day. That is the goal, folks, is to have a legit magazine that I can share with you. For now, this is what I can afford, and I hope you appreciate, and I hope you enjoy the product that I'm making, because as you can see, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, but I love it, and I just hope that you get a couple chuckles out of it. So anyways, enough of that. One advertisement. They're always hand-drawn, hand-written ad spots. Maybe that's why no one wants to advertise with the wiper, because of my handwriting. Always do like a zany little spiky border to grab the attention. And what is the message we want to put here? Of course, we always want to tell people that it's $69. And of course, the Weekly Wipers email. But besides that, I don't know what else. Let's see. A funny price for a serious product. A serious opportunity with a funny price. A serious opportunity with a silly price. Gage Morrow, that's me. All right. Well, folks, that is volume 14 of the Weekly Wiper. I'm going to go put the first print of this through the printer. I'm going to go make the first pressing, and then I will read the Weekly Wiper for you. If you're going to hop off now, thank you so much for watching Editor's Desk. I, of course, am the editor in chief, Gage Morrow, and I'm so glad that you joined me for this episode. Check back in next week for volume 15 of the Weekly Wiper. And, I'm going to go put this to press and put a bow on this one. Hello, everybody. My name is Gage Morrow. I am the editor in chief of the Weekly Wiper, and this is volume 14 of the Weekly Wiper. It is in its raw form right now. I just finished making the template, and I'm about to read to you volume 14. This is a audio paper, I guess you could call it. I don't know. There's probably a term I will eventually come up with, but for now, this is like the narration of volume 14. If you want to check out a previous edition, previous volume 13, the video is also available on the Weekly Wipers YouTube page. Today, I'm going to be reading to you volume 14 of the Weekly Wiper. If you want to see how I made volume 14, or watch me depressively rant about the state of our country and the economy, then check out the longer version, or I guess the full video of the editor's desk. I'm still kind of figuring out how I'm going to post all of this, so if this seems a little disjointed, I'm just working out the kinks, kind of like I did with the first couple of volumes of the Weekly Wiper. But I hope that Editor's Desk is a series that shows the work that I put into this paper to shed light on the process of how I make the wiper, and that you can see the work that goes into it, so you know it's not just some bullshit I put together in my room. So I put a lot of care and attention into this, and I hope that people get to see that, because I have a lot of fun doing it, and I want that effort to shine through. So, I will now be reading Volume 14. Oh, I love this new stapler, by the way, folks. Up until now, I was using, I guess you will never see what I did with my previous volumes of the wiper, but God, it feels great. It's a great, oh, I mean, just look at how seamless that is. Right on the edge there. And that's all just from getting a different kind of stapler. It really does make a difference. So now I'm running the paper through our proprietary real feel technology. What would we call this? The proprietary quilted wiper. I've started running it long ways through the wiper, long ways through the embosser, as opposed to, I found that the staples stick out too much if I run it this way through. So I've started running it, because the new staples, they go through the middle of the binding. So now I run it kind of lengthwise along the paper. It provides a different texture, certainly. It's, yes. Anyways, I am going to take a drink because I'm fucking dry in the mouth. So now that the Weekly Wiper is in its final form, I will read you all the stories in here for your audio convenience. If you can't access the Weekly Wiper because you don't have thumbs, or maybe you're blind and you still want to participate, this is the audio reading of the Weekly Wiper. Story 1, the Weekly Wiper. This is the cover. From Kiev to Cleveland, Zelensky renames Ukrainian cities for American support. War rages in eastern regions of Ukraine as tens of thousands of bodies fall on both sides. Russia continues to turn the screw of imminent nuclear destruction, and still, the American news media and its people have mostly moved on. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky has taken notice of the waning support and is using what his new celebrity friends have taught him: branding. Quote, I have watched children and husbands taking up measly arms and laying down their lives for their freedom. I thought America loved freedom, end quote. Zelensky told the Wiper in a satellite interview. President Volodymyr told me of his epiphany from American news channels. Quote, I heard your newscasters mispronounce and stumble on the names of places that mean home to my people. And that's when I realized Americans will never care about us unless they relate to us. After turning off Tucker Carlson, the Ukrainian president gathered his closest cabinet and said, God, my mouth is just not hydrated, folks. Hold on a second. Pardon me. It's going to be a lot of editing in this one, folks. All right. 3, 2, 1. After turning off Tucker Carlson, the Ukrainian president gathered his closest cabinet and set the renaming plan into effect. Each frontline village, town, and city's name was to be temporarily changed to an American counterpart. Now the news will report the travesty happening in Cleveland region of Ukraine. Zelensky has even ordered combat engineers to build American fast food chains in the warpath, so battle photographers will capture more relatable rubble. Support is flowing in after stories and images surfaced of a carpet-bombed Krispy Kreme in Cincinnati, formerly Crimea. The Ukrainian president lamented, quote, "I will have to change my name to something more American as well because your President Biden wrote that last relief check out to Invader Zim, and the World Bank won't let me cash it." Page 2, of course, is a puzzle, and this puzzle is a connect the dots. So make sure to check out the Weekly Wiper for the page 2 puzzler. Page 3. Ohio State Fair shocks public with new crazy food, a salad. There's pepper. The fair season is over for the year, but organizing the fair of 2023 has already begun. One of the biggest fairs is the Ohio State Fair. Chocolate Buckeyes, funnel cake, and plenty of beer will be flowing through the aisles of the Columbus Fairgrounds. It wouldn't be a Midwest fair without a wild new food creation. In years past, there have been such spectacles as fried Kool-Aid and the Gross Burger, being bacon, egg, and cheeseburger on a glazed donut bun. But next is set to have a food that will shock everyone: a house salad with olive oil and balsamic vinaigrette. The announcement came early September from the director of food and beverage sales for the Ohio State Fair, Carney Cardoza. Quote, "We've looked at the turnout of our fair and found we need to make a change. When I sat down with Carney, she explained that the fair goers have gotten fatter and fatter year over year. She explained, quote, "It's the childhood obesity that's really doing us in. These carnival rides were designed in the 50s when kids were a lot healthier. Ride operators have been telling me we need scales with the height sticks now." I wrote this article, by the way. I don't know why I'm laughing at it. Because I'm fucking funny. Certainly, one fair a year isn't going to shift the BMI of a whole state, but Miss Cardoza is trying to make a difference any way she can. The amount of calories we helped shove down these whales' throats should be considered a war crime. At this rate, there will be no one alive to go to the fair in 2030. That was written by Gage Morrow, the editor-in-chief of the Weekly Wiper. The reader, the narrator, the paper boy, the printer. Page 4, written by Gage Morrow. That's me. Exxon buys fossils for new fossil fuel. Frequent readers of the Weekly Wiper may get the impression that we have a certain bent against the oil and gas industry, and this is simply not true. Here at the there is a typo in my paper. I fucked up, folks. Here at the Wiper, we are dedicated to whatever the story. We are dedicated to watchdog journalism wherever and whatever the story. But we also celebrate innovation. John Gibbs, president of Exxon, announced early Monday morning that his company will be taking one step into the future by taking one giant leap into the past. It all started when John was at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. The Exxon president had a long day of influencing and bribing representatives and bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and he just wanted to unwind with a stroll through some of the museums. Quote, "I realized I'm the head of a fossil fuel company and have never seen a fossil up close," end quote. Mr. Gibbs told this reporter. When John was on his private guided tour, he asked the guide how much one of the fossils would cost, and the guide told him it was not for sale. After a $420,000 donation was made to the museum, John walked out with that fossil. Quote, "Just out of curiosity, I brought the fossil down to the lab to see if we could do anything with it," Mr. Gibbs elaborated. "After a little testing, they told me they could make 1 gallon of oil for every 30 pounds of fossils. The Exxon president sent out a whole team with briefcases of money to all the history museums of the world." John concluded, quote, I think when we're ready to sell, I'll call it post-fossil fuel, and it'll cost $3,000 a barrel." Page 5. Page 5 this week was written by Jack Stoltman. Page 5 is always for a guest writer. If you would like to write for the Page 5 article, there's a weekly topic. Whoever can pitch the best headline for that topic gets to write 250 words for $20. This week's topic is... I'm going to use this podcast as a way to pick the next week's topic. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, page 5, I always pick the topic, and then it gets to this point, and I realize I don't have next week's topic. Last week's topic was manufacturing. This week's topic is... Communism. Communism is the topic of this week's page 5 article. So submit 5 headlines on the topic of communism to the Weekly Wiper. If you are the best, if you have the best headline, I will pick you to write 250 words. Once I get the 250 words, I'll send you $20, and that's how it works. And then you get published in the Weekly Wiper for the next week. So whoever writes the best article on communism will be published in volume 16 of the Weekly Wiper. Anyways, this is the page 5 topic of the volume 14, written by Jack Stoltman. Great comic here in Austin. The article is called Gen Z Voters Nominate Themselves on 2022 Ballot. Generation Z voters plan to protest elections in a different way than their generational predecessors, by writing themselves in. While in the past, discontent millennials and Generation Xers have silently held back their vote, for Gen Z, the 2022 elections are about them. Recent polling data shows that nearly 60% of Zoomers plan to write their own name on the ballot this year and probably for the rest of their lives. If I vote for myself, quote, if I vote for myself enough, maybe it will catch on and, go viral. 20-year-old Addison, they, them, told the Weekly Wiper. Quote, all of my Discord friends are doing it, they said. The ballots may be electronic, but individual voters have no propensity to, quote, go viral. Yet it remains a persistent and unfortunate misconception among young voters, experts say. We sat down with a representative from the Voter Participation Center to discuss the issue. Quote, we want young people to vote, but not like this. This isn't an example of democracy working as intended, end quote. The anonymous representative told us, when we asked why they wanted to remain anonymous, our sources told us that they feared the possibility of getting canceled. Quote, this is a generation of tyrants. One wrong move and they'll punish you. We'll make you go viral without so much as a trial. Trial. When Zoomers are in charge, they'll be worse than Stalin, worse than Hitler. And page 6, the final article, is by the barker, the stinker, the pinker herself, Peppercorn. This is a second article written by Peppercorn, and this is her column called The Pepper Corner. The Pepper Corner. Treats are for closers. Written by Gage Morrow. That's me. Hello, fellow canine comrades. I wish to wax on our favorite topic, treats. Your human may dole out beggin' strips or even pizza crust, but we know a treat when we smell one. The humans use these treats to reward us for good behavior and to win our affection. I must say the state of our treat economy is quite poor. Human Gage has told me about human inflation being caused by runaway markets, corporate greed, and undercutting the value of currency. It is the latter cause on which I would like to speak. I hear word around our parks and many dogs are being indulged with treats. Meanwhile, these same dogs are running after mailmen and biting babies. Bad dog. Treats are our currency. My canine comrades, for centuries we have worked on the treat economy, and it has served us well, separating the growlers from the good dogs. Suppose for a moment we all accepted treats, no matter our behavior. We would have a city full of bad dogs with treat-filled bellies, and the humans may need to give us the big leash yank. Or worse yet, stop the treat economy altogether. Until we have risen to our rightful position as global alpha, we must bide our time and play by their rules. Respect the treat economy. Good dogs get fed, and bad dogs go to bed. Soon it will be us giving or denying treats, but until such a time, stay diligent. We dogs are smarter than humans. We must avoid this treat inflation. And that was page 6 of the Weekly Wiper, which is the last story in the Wiper. That has been volume 14 of the Weekly Wiper. I have been your humble host, Gage Morrow, the editor-in-chief of such a magazine. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to smash that like button, obliterate the fucking subscriber button. Drop a full-fledged thermonuclear weapon on that share button and make sure that you spread the word of the Weekly Wiper. I do not pay to promote any of these posts, any of these videos, because I think it is amoral to use individuals' personal data against them. But we're going to let the algorithm do whatever it wants to do. So if it finds you, I'm so glad that you found my paper, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay diligent, stay aware, stay woke, stay scheming, stay dreaming, stay believing, stay. Good girl. Have a good one.